was thinking about how would you like to talk about Persona 5? You know, a little game made by Atlus. I really like its message. I've seen generally that Japanese games try a lot to get some kind of morals, like the Yakuza games or the Final Fantasy series. In this case, I don't know if you saw that the main theme in this game is rebellion, though I know it's kind of obvious. With all its characters going nuts after getting done with all the shit that surrounds them, and it's something I really find endearing in those characters, in how they are tired of being held down by others. The gameplay also gets good after learning it, and the story made me cry a couple of times. Though, it's funny that I'm saying I like this game now, because when I started playing it, I leave it just after a few hours of playing it, because I'm not used to Japanese RPGs that take some time to take off in the story, so I got bored quickly and leave it for months. But then, after hearing so many people praise it on social media and YouTube videos, I decided to power through the first hours of tutorial to see if what they were saying about the game was true or not, which was still a lot for a monkey brain like me. And wow, the story and characters blew me away by how well written they are. Although it's sad because I've seen on Twitter some people say that it isn't a good story or that it is a mediocre one, which I kind of don't get because this story is good by itself. I don't see the necessity of comparing it to previous entries that, although I haven't played them yet, I don't think that it will mean that I will like this game less when I play the other titles of the series. But I really liked, as I said, how the characters and even the villains live in this oppression from different sides. On one side or view, we can see Ren and his friends being scolded or belittled by teachers or other classmates, feeling trapped in their own environment, but outside of their school, by helping others, they begin to see how people around them are also being affected, maybe by politics, maybe by other people who were also affected by other people in the beginning. But unlike our heroes, these people, instead of trying to fight together against whoever is fucking them over, they stayed isolated, with that anger inside them, becoming mini-bosses in Mementos. And fuck, I understand these mini-bosses. That stuff hit me a little bit hard because I remember being angry all the time, without any help from others, and it sucked, feeling trapped in many ways. So you can say I really understand some of these villains, being stuck and not having anyone to support me or to hear me in the past. But luckily, Ren isn't me, and he meets a lot of people who feel like him, each one with their own problems that we can relate in one way or another, both the playable characters and the secondary ones like Kawakami or Yoshida. Although, quote unquote, they're normal people, they are also special in their own regard. Personally, I love the story of both of these characters, as we can see how people can become massive assholes just trying to take advantage of people like Kawakami or whoever lets them do it, or Yoshida, trying to redeem his corrupt past, but being extorted by what should be his friends or co-workers of years. And I got so mad that these characters were taken advantage of, not only because I like these characters, but personally I've heard real life stories about situations like that. And I'm sure most people have lived through or heard where they live stories like this. Maybe not exactly a story of their teacher working as a maid on the side to be able to pay up an extortion, but stories of just people being taken advantage by others in dozens of ways. Which was a great build-up, because every time each character awakened the persona, I got really hyped and a little bit horny, not gonna lie. And I mean, who wouldn't get excited to see real-life justice? That's why we have an entire subreddit for it. And as we know, subreddits are the hidden dreams of all people in the world. But back to topic, you see how these characters want to break free, and it makes me wonder how much each person can struggle until they explode. How much can I struggle? How will be the real life image of that rebellion that these characters live through? And I guess it depends for each person, but in my view, it's about doing what you want. Not worrying about money, but worrying about living life by my rules. If I'm going to be at least 8 hours of my day behind a desk, at least I want to do something that I like drawing or making videos. And I've seen over the years that what really makes me tilted is seeing other people hating just because they can, wasting their energies at being mad at the world, but not only that, also affecting everyone that they can affect just to get high on that hating addiction. You know, you get me? But what this rebellion would look like for you. And while I consider myself not a teenager anymore, I vibe very well with the game. Although it's obvious the main audience of this game is aimed at teenagers, I still remember when I was a teenager too, rebelling against my family and even friends as I wanted to find my own character and personality. But if I could say something to my past self, is to be more cautious with that rebellion, because it can be very destructive towards family, relationships, and even with my body too, with things like eating way too much. Yes, I rebel by eating way too much. But the characters in the game, if you saw, don't have a problem with their parents. They generally love them a lot. They have a problem with how society, authorities, and the masses are leading them. Which, more than leading, it just looks like demanding them to just be motionless, in the fact that what these villains want is to have control over others without anyone rebelling against them, and society just turning their heads away, becoming into a monster in itself that are fucking everyone's in the process. And now that I say this, not all the characters start as super nice people. If you remember, Kawakami treated Ren kind of badly when she was introduced to him, same with Sojiro, and as the story advances we have to let them meet us so they can see who Ren really is. And with characters like Sae, it was interesting because we see how she went the other way, from someone with strong ideals to a twisted version of herself. But it's because of the work that she is in, which seems filled with sexist men. And not only Sae is affected by that kind of mentality from men. With Anne, she's harassed by Kamoshida, and what I find crazy is how her friends, classmates, teachers, even the director ignore what Kamoshida is doing to her and other students. But I like it. Hear me out. Not because Anne is being in that horrible situation, same with Sae, but because people like Anne or Sae demonstrate how women struggle different from us men in that fictitious world, and we can see similar cases in the real world too. And those are, in my opinion, good stories to tell both kids, teenagers, and even grown-ups to see the many injustices that there are in the world. And I like that we have those situations without the game distracting from the fact that everyone can go through very different heavy situations. Like Ryuji or Yusuke or Sojiro or Haru. Jesus Christ, surely has the award for having the worst dad ever, who sells their own children to other people for political leverage. Don't answer, it's a rhetorical question. Speaking of politics, we can also see how politicians, for example, fuck over people. Common people like you and me, and man, is it me or politics around the world are just nuts? Every time I open Twitter or Reddit, I see a new country, mine very often, just having a meltdown with its citizens, protesting for all the awful conditions that they're living through. What's happening with governments around the world? Jeez man. But back to topic, I think Shido represents many corrupt politicians very well. Being an egotistical son of a gun that thinks that he has all the answers while being so separated from the reality and needs of us the normal people. That just makes my head hurt how ignorant they are about our necessities and how also this problem can be seen in the real world. But getting out of that topic that makes my blood pressure rise more than Persona 5 doujinshis, aside from Shindo, I saw that other bosses like Kaneshiro and mainly the mini bosses at Mementos are generally not all that bad. Just sad people who went forward on the chaotic route, hurting others. But I like that the bosses aren't just villains to beat up, but people who need a smack in the head to enter in reason. They're bad people, but not always evil. They are people who suffer from stuff like corruption, poverty, violence, or even classism like many other people do. But again, they didn't know how to deal with that as they surely felt alone in their problems. But with that said, fuck Kamoshida, that corny ass fucker was the perfect introduction to the game, because I really find his shadow boss design to be very well done. And it's curious, because the main characters are designed around the tarot cards, but also the villains I think are designed around the tarot cards. See, tarot cards come from Christianism, and they have the 7 sins, although I've seen that sometimes they have 8 sins, but I don't know what the 8th one is, though I'm sure it speaks about not being a well in gacha games. And Kamoshida, for example, but with his actions and his boss designs, depicts lust. Kaneshiro depicts gluttony. Mada depicts greed, and so on. But what is the sin of the people in Mementos? Sloth? Maybe that's Futaba? Maybe they have all the sins in them as they all represent the collective minds of a place, but it's interesting how they created their own god, which means that the people in itself are their own god, and even created collectively that world, like little PCs powering their own server, like Mona, no, not that Mona, the Fourier once said. but the game is harsh towards this Mementos hive mind, meaning the people in general. It treats people as mindless, angry, depressed ants that just go in life without much thought. It takes a punch at them, criticizing them for not rebelling for the problems that they created as a collective, leaving it just to whoever wants to fix it, aka our protagonist, while feeding the main villains. Personally, I think the criticism is okay because people gave their desires, feel defeated, and are defeated by problems that they themselves created as a group, in many ways. Maybe they didn't create the corruption that Shido is taking advantage of, but they are surely letting him do what he wants. Doesn't mean that you or me are part of the problem, but at least we try to think about it in a different manner, and even trying to fix it in our own bubbles. At least, I guess this game is trying to say us that, or what do you think? But on the bright side, we have these heroes who go against what society dictates. And that's difficult, because when you're rebelling against something, you cannot just do it out of spite. You have to be calm, you have to be smart, curiously like Makoto, and more than anger, have the resolve and intelligence to know what's wrong with what surrounds you. In my opinion, that's the only way to begin seeing how to get away or fix a bad situation. Think like Makoto, be like Makoto. Don't lose Makoto though, but you can see that she generally handles situations with a cold head and it pays off. Finally, Persona taught me to have more patience with the media I consume. First of all, thanks to it, I'm excited to play the other Persona games. I'm playing Yakuza and I'm taking my time with it. I am not rushing things now. It also reminded me the importance to always give a hand to others. We may be surprised and they too may be surprised, because I think at times we forget that we can help each other just because we can. To forgive those who wronged us, be teachers, be classmates, be bosses, be family, etc. is also a very good way to move forward instead of getting stuck like these pathetic mini bosses in Mementos. To live by your own rules instead of others' rules, and to understand our entire notion of the governments and politicians getting to an end, and to be able to convert into a new political form of democracy which may know how to resemble anything we know up until now, like how feudalism became a monarchy and then into a democracy, but that's secondary. If you haven't played this game, give it a chance. It's good. I recommend you to buy it if you can. If you already have played it, remember to break free from the chains that others put on us, or worse, where we put those chains ourselves. Hope you like to talk with me today. Comment about what you think. Let's discuss. You may not agree with me and me with you, but I think it's important to give everybody a safe space to respectfully tap their minds once in a while. Have a good week.